we are told country 1 and country 2, the marginal cost. Find the collusive equivalent. How to find? So how to find the collusive equivalent? Okay, so in order to find the collusive equivalent, first, what I spoke to you just now, if these two firms decide to collude, each of them will produce how much? For firm 1 will be this, for firm 2 will be that. Okay, so let's do firm 1 first. Maybe we don't even need to do firm 2, because why? Is the collusive model symmetric? Yes. Second, the cost, same. Okay, so we can use one equation. Now, let's look at firm 1. Now, we found that the demand function is this. Is this a straight line? It's a straight line, so what's the MR? You have learned before exactly the same thing, except the gradient here is how much? 2. Alright? 2Q. But Q is Q1 plus Q2 because there are 2 firms. If there are n firms, Q1 is Qn. Fair enough. Okay, so M1 is this. So set M1 to MC1. What is MC1? This amount. So now we have one equation, how many unknowns? 2 unknowns, but that's not an issue. One equation, 2 unknowns. It's not an issue. Why? Because we can apply symmetry. See? And so because of this, we can write this as what? Anyone? Can I write this as Q1? Can I write? If I write this as Q1, what will I get? Q1 plus Q1 is called 2Q1. Right, 2Q1 times 2 is called 4Q1. So you count 1 and count 1. Easy? Okay, any question? Okay, so next. Once you find the quantity, can you find the price? Of course, the demand function is given as this, right? 2Q1 and Q2 inside here, the price will be 50, and the profit, total revenue minus total cost, 125. You see, you found one, you found all. That's the good thing about this. All right. Any questions? Now, if collusion is so good, why cartel breaks down? Now, it's not, this so-called collusion is not the first time. In 1970, the OPEC cartel also set up a collusive arrangement. Back then, the price of oil went up by 4 times ago. But the cartel only lasts for 5 years because what economists say in the long run it will collapse. But a lot of people do not understand economics. They thought that economists say this, that means it will happen today or tomorrow. Now you have learned economics before, you know. If you do something now, it will happen now, right? But the economy is different. If you do something now, it takes time to propagate, filter through to the economy. So there's always a lag effect, 2 years, 3 years. Understand? Just like property bubble. When in US, in year 2003, if you look at a lot of news reports, they're talking about the US property is in a bubble. Right? Never burst. Bubble, what bubble? They say you're crazy. And it continues to go up for 4 years, right? And only 2009 then suddenly burst. Japan, the same bubble, they really saw that the price is a few times the household income. It takes 2 generations to pay their property loan. Right, so they say bubble. At the time when they say you're crazy, it takes 6 years to burst. Okay? So the same thing. The cartel lasts for 4 years. Only 4 years later, then the thing bursts. And the price of oil tumbles back to the level before it goes up. That go below. Because it's normal, price tends to overshoot or undershoot, right? If you go up on the upside, you cannot stop it. You can go until overshoot, until way above the fundamental value. But you also know one thing, when price comes down, you will come down here, you also cannot control. You will go overshoot on the upside or downside, right? So why cartel fail if everything is so nice? Now I said before, because cheating will always take place, right? But then the thing is this: suppose everybody is honest and don't cheat. Is it better to pollute? Sure. Because pollution will always give every firm a profit higher than what? If you compete, you don't even need to think, right? You all know. But how to prove in mathematics that pollution is collectively rational? That is, it pays as a group to pollute. So if the firm decides to compete, what model should I use? What models represent firms that compete? Or not? All corner firms are competing with each other, right? So, for example, if the firms are not elusive, or if the firms are not firms, using back the same data, so that's how I found that when firms are polluting, this is the information that we derive. Every firm makes this problem. Now, suppose they choose not to pollute. If they choose to compete, because they like consumers, right? They look at consumers, they feel that we shouldn't bring them on because they're such nice people. So the firms rather compete. Look at their profit, is it higher? I want you to find for me. If firms don't pollute, if they compete, what would be the profit? Each firm. So very simple. If you are firm one, you have to maximize your profit, which is total revenue, P times Q. So this is your P for firm 1, P times Q1 minus total cost. Where's the total cost? In this question, what's the cost equal to? In this question, cost is given as well. 0. Average cost equals 0, right? Okay, so that means you don't see the total cost because the cost is 0. Okay, so these are profit. Minus total cost, for cost is equal to 0. Even as 0, so don't have to take too much. So for firm 1, he has to decide how much to produce, so he d pi over d. And set to 0. So again, we have one equation, how many unknown? 2 unknown. Okay? Okay, tell me. Can I solve this using symmetry? Yes, column symmetric, are the costs the same? Yes. Okay, so I can rewrite this as what? Q1. So if you rewrite this as Q1, therefore it becomes 1.5 Q1 is equal to 50, Q1 is 33. So we found one, we found one. Alright, the same old stuff. What's the profit then? Well, the profit of firm 1 therefore will be what? So we find the price, right? And so the profit as you work out is 111. That's the cartel profit. Even if you don't have to work out, you can tell, right? But working out is better because this time if you decide to cheat, you go and do some calculation to see whether it's worthwhile to cheat or not. Because cheating is also, don't forget, is illegal. So everything you have to pay a price. If I cheat, I only earn 10 million more for 4, right? If I'm going to earn a few hundred million more, yes, it's worthwhile. So if you cheat, you get 1250. If you don't cheat, you compete, you get 111. That's why it pays to cheat. Right? Now, of course, you say these are small amounts, but don't forget, all these are in terms of billions of dollars, right? Oil revenue is not in terms of millions or billions. 1 billion is 1,000 million. Right? So 1,000 million is very difficult to ask people to cheat. You talk about don't cheat for $10, $20, I can understand. You can sleep very well at night if you don't cheat. But if I have 1,000 million in front of your face and I ask you to cheat, you don't cheat, you will slap yourself if you can't. Why I won't hear the stop. there on top, no hair everywhere, no hair. Still cannot save 100,000 a year. Alright. So therefore you will slap yourself. But you see, if you're talking about million, it's very difficult to tell people not to cheat, right? 2,000 million oil revenue. So even if you take the difference, if it's the difference of 100, you are talking 100 million. That's why people will cheat. It pays to cheat. Now then, if everybody cheats, which is worthwhile, producing profit is higher, then how come hotel break down? The irony is this. Once we all decided to cheat, all pollute, right, what should you do? Then you start playing your part. Shouldn't you start playing your part? The fact is, as far as money is concerned, very hard to say. Right? So if you and your partner, three of you decide to pollute, right, once pollution takes place already, what you do? You finally go and pay them back. Okay? That's why pollution is collectively rational, but individually, totally irrational. Why? It's better the whole group pollute. But once everybody pollute, what will you do? It's individually irrational for you to pollute anymore. You understand? Once 5 of us agree to pollute, and once we pollute, individually it will be stupid for you to carry on polluting. Finally, go and play everybody back. Once, then you can make much more money. Okay, how to show? That is the reason why cartels fail. Because while everybody pollutes, then suddenly one firm says what? Okay, I'm going to play everyone out. Okay. Now in this world, you don't need a lot of bad people around. You only need one bad people. Right? In this world, all you need is one. So if someone says, let me play them back, it will be nice. Why? Because if someone decides to cheat, look at his profit. Now, of course, wait. Even if you want to cheat, must know how to cheat around. Just like I said, if you want to shirt, also must know how to shirt. Because it's so blurred. Start shirking and you get caught, right? And then you're hopeless, right? Haven't even shirt long enough to get caught. You must be a professional shirter. So if you want to cheat, then you also must know how to cheat, right? If you decided to cheat, then how much should you produce? How much should you produce? See, if you are firm one, if you decided to cheat, first, why you cheat? Because you care about money. And because you care about money, then how much should you produce? Now, can I just take a shortcut? Firm one to maximize profit. Just now we work out his profit function. We found that firm one should produce this amount. Agree? This is the quantity that will give firm one the amount. The highest profit. So therefore, if firm one decided to cheat, how much should he produce? So I don't have to redo the whole problem again. I already solved it right and found that if he decided to cheat, how much should he produce? Now, since the cartel arrangement is that everyone produce how much? The cartel arrangement is everyone produce 25, right? So while your partner faithfully produced 25, if you decided to play him out, how much should you produce? To maximize your profit. Right, to maximize your profit. If your partner still produce 25, you should produce 37.5. Right now. At least you cheat. By right, everybody, the quota is 25. But by then, you produce 37.5. Because why? It cares about your own profit. Okay? So while pollution takes place, you finally cheat, and you notice, therefore, firm one, if he wants to maximize profit, while the pollution is on, he should not produce 25. He will switch to Q2 is 25, he will switch to produce 37.5. And let's see why. Now, but the thing is that if we start producing 37.5, you know why it's so easy to detect cheating? You know why it's so simple? So easy to know cheating takes place now. Because previously all produced 25. What's the market price? 50. Right? Now this guy finally cheated and produced 37.5. What happened to the market price? Dive to 37.5. anyone knows cheating takes place. Someone quietly produce more. Otherwise, how can the price drop from 50 to 37.5? You understand? So don't think it's difficult to detect cheating. Once you produce more, that means there will be excess supply, right? The price will fall. That's why it's so easy to detect cheating. Now, when the price of oil went up 4 times, the whole world goes into a recession. You have what you call supply shocks. You understand? Cost of production suddenly went up due to imported inflation. Supply shock. The world goes into a recession. But normally people will cheat when you have a recession. When things are not doing well, people will cheat, right? When things are doing well, will people cheat? There's no need to. Everybody wants so much to spend, they don't know what to do. So, the whole world goes into a recession, then cheating takes place. So yes, the price died. So why you cheat? Because now you look at firm 1, his profit now, if he's produced this amount, and now the market price is 37.5, his total revenue is this, minus cost, the cost is given at 0, right? His profit increased from 125. So therefore it pays to cheat once the cartel is raised. That's why one cartel is objectively irrational. It is individually irrational. Understand? Because once they are there, individually, if you still pollute, you are very stupid. Because it pays for you to deviate, then you can see your profit jump so much. Therefore, pollution, once happened, is individually irrational. But you don't forget, your gain is the other guy's loss. Look at the other firm now, he make great losses, right? So that's why the cartel failed. Suddenly the price dropped a bit. So what happened? Now every human being behaves the same way, right? Because all great men think alike. We're all great men. But you see, we all think the same way. Isn't it? Sure, if you got this person, I'm sure besides you, there are also a lot of people who are thinking the same thing, right? And so on. Right? All great men think the same. So, everybody says what? Someone cheated. What should I do? I think I better cheat. That's the great thing, right? I'm going to do something. You don't want to think that way. The other country also think the same way, right? I think I also better cheat. So that I will not do something. Indeed, there's such thing called cheating. So everybody thinks alike. What happened? Within 1 month, the price of oil goes all the way down. Back to lower than the initial level before it goes up. Understand? Everybody starts so-called buying insurance, right? All things alike. So, cartel fail because people cheat. And people will tend to cheat when times are not good. Also in the recession. Okay? So we can see that after this experience, what happened? All the cartel members now are very intelligent. They go through this, they know that there's only one way to prevent this from happening again. They impose what? Trigger strategy. So now all of them use trigger strategy. Now what's trigger strategy? Trigger strategy is essentially ascension. So what's ascension? Ascension is like a punishment. Understand? Once people cheat, they sanction you. So all of them now use punishment strategy. How? Well, in the first place, it depends on how you cheat initially. Now, if everybody cheated by fixing price, you understand? If you all pollute by fixing price, now once cheating takes place, the trigger strategy is such that all will cooperate until cheating takes place. Once cheating takes place, what happens? We will not pollute on price anymore. Everybody will play what? Play Bertrand. Bertrand means what? All the firms are not to play right. They will set their own price to maximize their own profit. If possible, I will try to undercut you. But we also know that the punishment is so severe. Why? Because if everyone plays Bertrand, we found that if they have the same cost, all will only earn zero profit. Correct? Set price to average cost. That would be the national road if they break the trend. So you see, the punishment is very severe. If you don't cheat, our profit is 1 to 5. I mean, if we don't play each other out, we can make 1 to 5. Once cheating takes place, the punishment strategy is when everybody plays the trend, the profit becomes zero. You understand or not? So this makes it very, very expensive for anyone to cheat. So that's why nowadays they use trigger strategy. Understand? So the cartel can last longer. Because it doesn't pay to cheat anymore. If you cheat subsequently, the next few years, forever you're going to get nothing. Okay, so this is trigger strategy. So a trigger strategy is a form of sanction. Now, of course, the other way they can do is what? If initially everybody pollute based on quantity, alright, then if cheating takes place, what will be the trigger strategy? All will not pollute on quantity anymore. Okay, if they don't pollute on quantity, that means they're going to play what? Or not. Right, or not is based on quantity. To each his own. I will produce my own quantity to maximize my profit. I don't care about you anymore. That means they play or not. But even that, you can see, if everyone play or not, look at the difference. Every country will now suffer what? A loss. It's not as severe as Bertrand, that's all. Right, everybody instead of earning 1250, every year they're going to earn only 1111. Understand or not? Okay, so the thing is, the trigger strategy is based on what? You read the question carefully. If the question says that firms initially pollute based on price, right? Then once cheating takes place, they will not pollute on price. If you don't pollute on price, which model represent that? The trend. Alright, because it's the price, all the trend firms compete on price. So if they don't compete on price, if they don't pollute on price, that means all play the trend. However, if the exam question tells you every firm initially play the set quantity, right? They fix the quantity to control the price. Then you say the trigger strategy is such that once cheating takes place, all will play what? Or not, because or not is based on quantity. Understand? So which one you will choose depends on what is the initial setup. If initially all compete on price, trigger strategy will be all play per trend. If initially all compete on quantity, then subsequently all will play or not. Understand? Okay. Look at E, part D. Now, you can see 1D. Using that the same as number as before. So what do we find? What do we find? Now, using 1D as before. Now, using what we have found, how to find the national premium. Okay, first, the demand function is this. M bar is what? Twice as steep. Right, so therefore the slope scale of 1, the gradient of is 2. So, now just now the mathematics we go through is a little bit hard for you, right? Remember what I said before, it is a collusive model, all firms accept set what? The maximized profit is asking right? MR equal to MC1. Right, so don't bother with the mathematics if you find two disturbing important. Alright. So set MR to MC1 for term 2. Term 2 MR to MC2. Now one equation is enough. Why? Because collusive is what order? Symmetric. Okay, second look at the cost. The costs, are they the same? Yes, so you can use symmetry. So you set MR to MC. The whole problem is solved. And you can see for yourself. So if you set MR to MC, how many unknowns do you have? 2. Do you need 2 equations? Don't need. Why? Because you can apply symmetry, right? So if you apply symmetry, you can write Q1 as 1. Q2, so you can write Q2 as 1. Q1. So you understand why 4Q1 equals 60? You understand, of course. Who can understand? I set Q2 to Q1. Alright, so if Q2 is equal to Q1, it means 4Q1 equals 60. Okay? You found Q1 is 15, you found 1, you found 1. Is it? What's the profit? Same thing, you found 1, you found 1. Okay, you understand? Now the trigger strategy, I think is cost that right? So right now,
em ngại đám đông nữa thôi rồi rất chị việc có người mà lúc trước em biết Phúc không?
Có biết. Phúc đi Mỹ rồi.
Anh lúc trước chị Phúc là đi chung cái đó với nó hết. Hồi đó Phúc giống Yên nữa. Giờ Phúc nói chuyện rất giỏi. Ta đi Anh nữa thấy không? Ở đây cho tôi viết bài.
Every firm is set MR to MC. Okay, so that's the equivalent. So in order to maximize profit, every firm is set MR to MC1. Firm is set MR to MC1
Màu gì chị?
and
Để đặt hả?
MR to MC2. So that's the equation. Now, second equation is
về anh học tiếp ngày thứ 6, học lại ngày thứ 6, ở lần học tiếp của bài ngày thứ 6. Nếu mà ngày thứ 2 sẽ thì chị ra lớp này được. Nói chung thứ 2 tuần ngày thứ 6 đi học. Bởi cho em khỏe. Thứ 6 gì đâu lên trường. Thứ 6 chị lên trường đó mới tắt thẻ cho em. Ủa, thì chị không định học chứ, chị học ngày này rồi, còn học thứ 6 nữa. Không, nhưng mà thứ 6 chị phải lên trường, chị học lại BOA, chị mất một bài BOA. Biết sao chị mới lên tác trường ngày 6 rồi. Chứ bây giờ nếu mà em tham gia cái đó đúng không? Em rất là sống thời gian em vừa phải học, còn bây giờ không có thời gian học bài trước để em thi xong, thi xong mới làm nữa.
So when your concept is a straight line, the MR is the same line.
Em làm rồi chức quan xong rồi lại đi tham quan những cái công ty như là IBM, cái IBM đúng không? Cho em biết Singapore Airlines, cái Đức, ngân hàng Đức gì á, của Đức, nó có nhiều cái giá trị 10 đô nữa đó. Suy nghĩ kỹ nhưng mà không có ai đi chung thì chị còn đây mà, nếu chị đâu có đi theo thì tập đi thì đi thôi, thì đi nói chuyện với mấy đứa trong đó chứ mắc chuyện gì, không phải cứ đi theo chị hoài hả? Dạ chuyện với chị chưa muốn có con nha, tập đi không mình tắt chưa ta, mình tắt chưa, phải tắt rồi, tắt số nha.
So symmetry is this.
3 và 5 nó có đưa thẻ đây.
So we can use one equation
Không phải gói nhắn tin nha.
So since by symmetry, Q1 is equal to Q2, so therefore I can write this as Q1. Right, so you write this as Q1, therefore for Q1 you put this, so Q1 you get it. So you count one, you found one. Right, so the symmetric equilibrium is every firm produce 15. Now then from here we can find the price. You put Q1 and Q2 inside here. So the market price will be 40, and the profit of each firm, revenue minus cost. Again, I think we can recall, the Collusive model is a symmetric model, and because they are the same cost, right? So that's why you can apply your symmetry. Now, symmetry means the quantity are the same, the profit also the same. Right? So you find the profit for one firm, you actually find both. Okay, any question on this? Okay, so that's a symmetric equilibrium for collusive equilibrium. So I will now move on to part E of the question. Now, in part E of the question, you are told that suppose the firm have a discount factor D. Okay, so the discount factor now is defined as D. Now, for what value of D can collusion be sustained by a trigger strategy? Now, I think last week I spoke to you about trigger strategy, right? Have I talked to you about what's trigger strategy? A trigger strategy, remember, is a form of sanction. Every players will cooperate until someone cheats, right? Have I thought about that? See, last time I talked to you about under collusion, firm can use trigger strategy. Have I discussed this? Have or not? I spoke to you about this, right? That means if cheating takes place, subsequently every firm can play or not or play with a trend. And that depends if initially all the firms fix prices. If initially they collude by fixing prices. So once cheating takes place, from then on, all will play with a trend. Right? With a trend because it's all about prices. So the trend means all firms will set price to marginal cost average cost. So profit equals zero. Now I also talk about if initially all firms collude by fixing quantity. Now once cheating takes place, all will play what? Or not. Because or not means they don't fix quantity anymore. They all compete. So each will produce their own quantity to maximize their own profit. And so therefore from here, this means the following. So we are told what will happen is that this game go on forever. Repeated interaction. Now as you can see, most of the game we treat it as a one period game. The game is over. But in 1 year the question you are told this game will continue forever. Non-stop. And all of them will collude. But once cheating takes place, every firm will play what? Will trend forever. Once cheating takes place. Okay, so that's the trigger strategy. Now, as you can recall, if they play with trend, subsequently every firm will earn how much? Zero profit. That's the punishment. So everybody will cooperate until cheating takes place. Now, once cheating takes place, all play the trend. As you can recall, the trend equilibrium in 1C. Every firm make how much? Zero profit. So therefore, don't cheat. Because once cheating is detected, everybody suffers, then nothing. Now, how to find the discount factor? So, first thing, the trigger strategy is that every firm will play with a trend after cheating and scope raise. So, the issue now is, as you may recall, when they collude, every firm make how much? Well, look at the collusive equilibrium. The profit is 450 when every firm collude. Right now. Now the question says, suppose they don't collude. Suppose one of the players cheat. When one of the players cheat, then what will happen? Now, if one of the players cheat, therefore, you have to ask yourself, what did he gain by cheating? Suppose firm 2 decides to cheat. Okay. He can cheat by, since they play the trend. So one thing is, playing the trend means there's an implication. That means every firm must have, in the first place, use fixed prices, right? They could have fixed prices to 40 under the collusive equilibrium. Everyone sell at 40. Did they collude? So everybody get 450. Now, suppose firm 2 decides to cheat. Now, what will happen is that if he decided to cheat, he will sell below 40. If he decided to cheat, he sell below 40, he will take the whole market. Everybody will buy from him. Alright, so I said before, that means if the trigger strategy is to play the trend, that means in the first place, initially all must have collude by fixing price to 40, right? Now, if initially everyone set 40, if firm 2 cheat, you will make a gain of how much? You take away the whole market share, so you will make a gain of how much? Now, 450, right? Because if he don't cheat, he get 450. But if he cheat, his profit is not only 450, right? You take away the profit of the other guy. So therefore, his gain is how much? 450. So you will not cheat if the gain from cheating, which is 450, is smaller than what? The loss from cheating. What's the loss from cheating? How much? So how much is the loss from cheating? Now, you make a one-time gain. Right. If you don't cheat, everybody will get 450. So if he decided to cheat, his profit will increase from 450 to 900. Alright. So his profit increased from 450 to 900. Now how come? Because so the gain is only 450. 900 minus 450. So he will not cheat if the gain from cheating is smaller than the loss from cheating. Now what's the loss from cheating? The loss from cheating is that you cheat, you make a one-time gain. Now but next period onwards, they all play the trend. Right, so there's a trigger strategy where all will play the trend. Now once they play the trend, the profit is how much? 0. Here. We found in this question, the trend profit is how much? 0. Okay? So what's the loss? You make a one-time gain of 450, but subsequently, every year onwards, you make a loss of 450. trend. So the profit will be from 4502 to 0. Well, every month you get 0. Every year you get 0. So the loss is, instead of getting 450, every year you get 0. So what's the loss per year? 450. Okay. So for how long? To infinity. Because this game you are told go on to infinity. Understand? It's an infinite period game. You read the question, this game is played until infinity. So the loss is this. Now of course we have to find the present value of this loss, right? How do you find the present value of this loss? You discount them one by one. Right? So essentially is this one discount one period. So the loss is 450. To bring it back to the present value, discount to the power of 1. This one, minus to the power of 2, discount 2 years, all the way to this how many period? Discount all the way to d to the power of infinity. And so that's how you get this series here. 450 times d to the power of minus d, right? Because this is a GP, can you recognize? Can you recognize this as a GP? So this is equal to 450 times d to the power of 1, d to the power of 2, all the way to d to the power of infinity, right? So this is a geometric progression. The GP, starting the first term d equal 1. The common factor how much? The common factor is d. If you can recall, this GP, if you sum up using the formula, right? A bracket 1 minus r n over bracket 1 minus r, it will be equal to what? D over 1 plus d. Okay? The sum of this series. That's how much you get. The loss from cheating is this. You understand now? 450D divided by 1 minus d. So, we know they will not cheat. The gain from cheating is smaller than the loss from cheating. No. The gain from cheating, the gain from cheating is smaller than the loss. Now, because we use this formula all the time, we'll memorize this. Right. We use this formula all the time. So, try to memorize this. Chapter 2 also we use this formula, alright? The sum of the GP is, okay. Now, we will not cheat to the gain smaller than the loss. Minimum condition equal. Now, the person will not cheat if the gain is smaller than the loss, or even equal, so you will not cheat, right? You agree? You only will cheat if the gain is greater than the loss. Any question? Okay. Any problems? Okay, so can I move on? So first two will not cheat. Okay. So this is the gain from cheating. So you make a one-time gain. This on the one. The loss from cheating. Okay. So we have now found the answer. So what's the collusive equivalent? They will not cheat. If the gain from cheating is this. So we solve for d. D equals 0.5. So what this simply means is that the firms will not cheat. If this is true, that is if d is greater than 0.5. So how do you interpret this? Firms will not cheat. Under what condition? So firms will not cheat this is true, true, true. And you see the discount factor is greater than 0.5. So, as long as the discount factor is greater than 0.5, the firms will not cheat. That means, how do we interpret this? That means we're going to have a collusive equilibrium, whatever, understand? When they don't cheat, that means you have a collusive equilibrium. So, under what case will you have a collusive equilibrium? You have a collusive equilibrium, this is true. Understand? Sustained by what? In this question, sustained by the trigger strategy whereby every firm will play what? The trend, once cheating took place. Understand? So the question asks you to find this discount factor D, so that we're going to have a collusive equilibrium sustained by the trend. And the discount factor we found is this. Because you must not read this, will not cheat means therefore there will be a collusive equilibrium. Understand? So a collusive equilibrium can only be sustainable. If this is true, true, true. Any question on this? Simple. demand function is this. Okay, so we can rewrite as P versus Q. Alright, so what's P equal to? P equal to 100 minus 1. P equal to 100 minus K over T. This right? Okay. So therefore P equal to this. You see? What's Q? There are two players, right? So big Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2. Alright, so we minus Q1 minus Q2. So that's our demand function. Okay? So I just rearrange this as this. P versus Q. Now, we are told that the cost function for this one is the same. Alright, for firm 1 is Q1 squared, for firm 2, Q2 squared. Okay? So cost function is same. And then for marginal cost is equal to what? dC over dQ, so that's equal to 2Q. Now, suppose every firm play the trend. So if every firm play the trend, now if both firms sell at the same price, they share the market equally. So that both firms set price to 50. So I prove that this is the trend equilibrium. Okay, first before I go further, this, if you decide to trade the trend, what's the optimal choice? The maximized profit is set what? So last week I gave you one statement. If you look at the trend, under the trend, the costs are the same. All firms will set P to how much? MC. Right? If your costs are different, then they will try to undercut some. Right? But if the costs are the same, all will set P to MC. Firm 1 will set P to MC1. Firm 2 will set P to MC2. Okay, so what's your P? Now we found that P is this amount. Set to MC, for firm 1 what's MC equal to? DC over DQ, so it's DQ1. Alright. So that's MC. Now, so again, we have one equation. How many are known? We have one equation, 2 are known. Can I apply symmetry? Is Bertrand a symmetric model? Yeah, last week I showed you this. Last 3 are symmetric model, right? So, but before you can apply symmetry, you have to check one thing, right? If you don't know the mathematics, first you know they are symmetric. Most importantly, do they have this? Yes or no? Yes. So we can use symmetry. Right, last week we copied this way under page 3 of the lecture. We saw this in page 3, right? As long as the model is symmetric, and most importantly, this is as long as this is true. You can apply symmetry. Okay, so now I'm going to apply this symmetry. Now, so by symmetry, but that's the case then, very simple. So this is Q1. This is Q1, and this is how much? 4. Right? Therefore Q1 equal to 5, you found 1, you found 4. Easy? That's all it is. Simple. So the first trend is that everybody will use this. Therefore, what's the Bertrand price? Put into the demand function. Therefore, 50. Okay, we have proved that the Bertrand price is 50. Easy? That's all. So the Bertrand price is 50. Sure. Okay. If I go beyond this, proven that the Bertrand price every firm for sure set 50. Why? Highest profit. Okay? So if you look at the profit, therefore, total revenue minus total cost. Since the price is 50, quantity 25, so that's your total revenue. Your cost is this. Why? Because the cost in this question was given as this. So therefore the total cost is Q squared. And so every firm make this amount of profit. You found 1, you found 1, because you use symmetry, right? So as long as they are symmetrical, so the quantity is the same, the profit is the same. Now, but this question asks you to prove, not only to find the Bertrand price, they ask you to prove that P equal 50 is a Bertrand equilibrium. Show. I already show already. But I want to show some more. You want to prove why. So why don't they set P less than 50? Why? If firm 2 were to undercut, sell below 50, right? You take away the whole market share. Wait. Let's see. Why don't the firm set price above 50? You can show that it's equal to 50, I need to show two cases. Why P cannot be above 50? Why P cannot be below 50? You understand? Why cannot be above 50? If any firm were to set 50, what happens? Will anyone buy from you? Nobody. You close down. Right, everybody selling 50, you go to sell 51. No buyer. So the one for sure, the price cannot be above 50. Okay, that being the case then, why don't you sell below 50? If you sell below 50, you take away the whole market share. Everyone buy from you. Suppose, okay, so theoretically, it's possible. You sell at 49.999. Understand? Sell at 49.9. Of course, in the real world, who cares about your 1 cent? Right, but since academically cheaper, that's all you buy more, right? So suppose you lower the price to 49.99. So if firm 2 decides to do that, how much is his profit? If you lower the price to 49.99, so below 50. Okay, so that's the price. Now, if you lower the price over here, it's good. You capture the whole market share. So not only you can sell 25, you see, right each of you is 25, right? Now, of course, if you lower the market share to that, you also take away the market share of what? Your rival's price. So therefore, this quantity becomes how much? 25 or 50. How much? 25 or 50? 50. His market share is 25. Now he also took away the market share of his rival, right? So now increase to 50. So that's the total revenue minus the total cost. Now what's the cost equal to? Cost of each firm is given by two square. Right. So what's 2 square equal to? Since you took away the market share, this quantity is 50, so the cost is 2 square. So if we sell below 50, that's his profit. Approximately. Okay, so you understand why no firm sell below 50, right? Why they don't undercut? It doesn't make sense. If they undercut, the payoff becomes this. If they don't undercut, what's the payoff? Every firm get how much? If they don't undercut, every firm earn how much? This. Okay, can see it now. So therefore, they will not sell below 50, they will not sell above 50, so we have proven further than just to show that P equal 50 must be the equilibrium price. The Bertrand equilibrium. Simple. Okay, so that's it. Okay. Question number 3.
Cái gom đồ mà đi thi mà nó được xóa không? Hả? Nghe đâu? Được rồi.
Gạch gạch
Đã biết sao?
như gạch nhiều cũng không được nữa.
Okay, so
Do cao tinh
question number 3.
Được chưa?
When given the
phải
following,
dùng sụp ban.
Bao nhiêu? Tùm lum. Đâu ai đi cái đó.
now, first, there are 2 firms. So, the demand for electricity is this. Now, the cost function. So, these are the monopolies here. Power general. Power general, the cost function is this. National power. Cost function is this. What happens if these 2 firms decided to collude? How to find the profit if they decided to collude? Now, if the 2 firms decided to collude, remember under collusion they all set MR to what? MC. So what's marginal revenue? Look at this. Is this a straight line to the power of 1? So therefore, MR is the same line as MR. The gradient is how much?
Chị thiếu này cũng có của bộ.
2 down steeper. Yeah.
Không biết để cái gì
Okay,
trong
can
đây.
you see this? Okay, so that's all.
Em sẽ để
Instead of
cái
this,
gì
so
trong đây.
now it's price system. Right. Now, but the cost function is different. As you can see yourself. The cost function says what? Power in general, the cost is 110. So, the other firm, the cost is 460. Now, the marginal cost is DC over EQ. So for power in general is this. For national power, the marginal cost is this. Okay. Now, if these 2 firms decide to collude, right? What's your recommendation? Now, I said before, if you collude, you set MR to MC, right? But this one is a special case. Who can produce the whole thing cheaper? Firm 1 or firm 2?
Cái bao cái.
This one's special case. MCP or I think if you say MCP is better than MCU.
Nhìn thấy nghi
Every unit, the cost to produce every unit is how much? 410. Right now, whereas this firm, the cost to produce the next unit, the next unit, the next unit, it means every unit is constant at 460. It means if both of you decide to collude, should we split the output? Yes or no? So who can produce cheaper? MCL and MCP. Of course, this one. So if we decided to collude, all should be produced by who? You see, because once you collude, it doesn't matter, right? You become one happy family, and so you want to maximize group profit. Right, one whole family. Group profit. It doesn't make sense to ask this guy to produce this isn't it? Because every unit, the cost to produce every unit is this. Whereas if you ask this guy to produce all, the cost to produce every unit is much lower, right? So, since you pollute, you become one happy family. I think this guy should produce all. But you're not talking about the issue of, some say, not fair. Right, so this is not issue of fair, or being fair. Okay. The objective of this happy family is to maximize what? Profit. Understand or not? Even if one guy do all the work, so what? They're not interested in who doing what work. Profit. So therefore we should let MCP do all the work. Since MCP is more efficient. Right? Even though you don't like it, but it's more efficient. So we set MR to MCP. Now, MR is found to be this. Set to MCP. So therefore your Q is this. Okay. So therefore the market price go into the demand curve, 495. That's it. And so the profit is this. Revenue minus cost. Now how do they split the profit? That one is not important. So the group profit is this. Now how they divide the profit? You see, there was nothing given. Normally for a firm to split the profit, there must be some contractual agreement, right? On how the profit is split. But since nothing is given, then we just based on an equity basis. This one take half. Okay, take this divide. Because nothing was stated in the question on the profit arrangement, so we cannot go further than that. Okay, so this is the big question, how to split profit. Okay, any question on this? Let's look at, in order to this question, I just want you to know, normally for pollution, this one we set in MCP. And the other firm, we set MR to what? MCN. Alright, the standard practice is like that. But this one we do. Because this one, there's really, one of them has a total cost advantage. You understand? Isn't it? So it doesn't make sense if I allocate some to MCN. This cost is all higher, right? My profit shows over, right? So that's all be produced by the cheaper cost. Okay, so we're done with this. Okay, nominal firms are the issue. So the last model is the dominant firm model. This is a leadership problem. So this is an asymmetric problem. So this is an asymmetric problem. Now, which means the following. Dominant firms model is given by this. So the dominant firms is the leader. It will decide the base. So you have one notch dominant firm. So this is called the leader. So he's the leader. He set the price. So dominant firms, they follow on price. Then who is the follower? These are the followers. Okay, so in this model, this one is the follower. the dominant firms will set the price that will maximize its profit. The several small perfectly competitive firm will then
Cái chuyện mua
take the
là
price
như balance đẹp hơn
set by
con
the
hết.
firm
Như
and
balance.
produce accordingly.
Nhưng mà
Now,
xin lỗi,
you are told that
Cái là như balance đẹp hơn.
how to find the total supply by all the fringe firms. I don't know whether you can still recall this.
Trong làm
The total supply by
không làm
all the small firms
Mình chỉ để
is
làm được.
found by summing up all their NC.
Chừng nó
Can you
năm
remember
cái
this?
giờ mình có 100 giờ.
Your intro
Nhưng mà
economics. How
cái
do
này
how you
là
find
cái
the
giải nó
total
giảm
supply?
cái năm chị mới mua của ca chứ là chị đâu
Your
có
intro economics. The total supply is found by what?
còn một hạt gì đấy đó như tôi làm đó cái này của anh giả đó
Summing up
cái
all
này
the
mình dùng bước rồi
individual supply of each firm.
bước có 3 đến 5
Now, already done before, the marginal cost curve is the
cân vợ
supply
cân
curve.
vợ tôi bước có 2-3 trăm bước 7
So
trăm
if you want to find the
làm chi
total market supply curve,
2 triệu đây là đây thì của bên cân vợ
what we do is
1 triệu chị nói triệu 2
sum up all the individual supply. So you want to start, right? But the supply curve of each firm is the marginal cost curve. So the marginal cost curve is the supply curve, right? So to find the total supply, we sum up all the individual supply at each price level. At $2 this firm supply 2, $2 this firm supply 3, so at $2 total supply is 2 plus 3, 5. Horizontal sum of all the individual supply. You get the total supply. In other words, each competitive firm, by summing up all their supply, we get the market supply. You understand? Or another way of saying the same thing is by summing up all their what? MC. Sum up all the MC or sum up all the supplier. Because perfect competitive firm, the marginal cost and supply curve are exactly the same thing. Okay? So which means the supply curve of the fringe firm
tôi đã làm được thôi tôi
is found simply by summing up all the individual supply. That's it. Now, what's the dominant firm's demand curve? The dominant firm's demand curve is if you read your subject guide, is defined as the residual demand curve. So what do you mean by that? Okay, so what we mean is this. Okay, first thing. The dominant firm's demand curve is the residual demand curve. Whatever that's left over. See? So, the dominant firm's demand curve is the market demand minus what? Minus whatever that is supplied by the fringe firm. The F stands for fringe firm. Which is obvious. So in other words, the dominant firm's demand curve QD is equal to the total market demand minus the total quantity supplied by the fringe firm. So if the market demand is 100, so if the market demand is 100, if the fringe firm total supply 70, if the total supply by the fringe firm is 70, the other 30, who supply? Dominant firms. So whatever the fringe firms cannot supply, it must be supplied by the dominant firms. Understand? So therefore, it becomes the demand of the dominant firms. If the market supply is 100, the fringe firms supply 20. The total supply by the firms, all the perfect competitive firm is 20. The other 80 becomes the demand on the dominant firms. Clear now? So therefore, the dominant firm's demand curve is defined as the residual demand curve. Now, she call this the residual demand because it's the leftover from the default becomes a demand on who? The dominant firms to produce. Okay? So how do we derive the dominant firms demand curve? So to derive the dominant firms demand curve, what we do? First, we look at the market demand first. So this is your market demand. Okay, so the total demand by the whole market. So the dominant firm's demand is the total market demand minus the quantity supplied by the fringe firm. Yeah. So how do we find this? Anyone? Okay, so next, I need to draw the total supplied by all the fringe firms. So the F stand for what? F stand for what? Fringe firm. So this one I just show you the total supply summing up all the MC. This will give you the total supply by all the fringe firm. Alright, you sum up all the individual supply and the individual MC. And so you get this. Okay, now I'm trying to derive the dominant firm's demand curve. How to derive? I think two important points. The first point is here. Now what's so special about this point? At this point, what's the dominant firm's demand? Anyone? When these two lines intersect, it's a very important point. That means, at this point, that means when the price is P0, can you tell me, what's the dominant firm's demand? How much? You have to copy. You really have it here. Okay, you have to copy. You listen carefully. After that, let me copy this. Right? You already have it. You have to copy. I'm trying to derive for you the red color demand curve. The dominant firm's demand. So that's what I'm trying to do. So first, to derive the dominant firm's demand curve, why I think this very important point. This very important point is this very important price. Because at this price, the dominant firm's demand is how much? 0. Can you see why? When the price is P0, I'm trying to derive the dominant firm's demand curve. So when the price is P0, the dominant firm's demand is 0. Why? Because the market demand is this amount, 100. But the fringe firm supply is also 100. Right? 100 minus 100. So the dominant firm's demand is 0. Understand? 0. So when the price is P0, the dominant firm's demand is 0. Can you see now? Because all will be fully satisfied by QF. Because at P0 the demand is this. At P0 the quantity supplied by fringe firm is this. So all will be fully satisfied. Okay? Like this. So that's all. Now to derive the demand curve, how many points you need? 2. So the other critical point that I'm going to choose will be here, P1. This point. Why? Because when the price is P1, if you go to the market demand is here. Right? The quantity supplied by the fringe firm is how much? At P1, the quantity supplied by fringe firm is how much? 0. Right? You only start supplying when the price go over P1. So when the price is P1, the quantity supplied by the fringe firm is 0. 0. Therefore, what's the dominant firm's demand? The market demand minus 0. That means if this is 0, if this is 0, the P1 this is 0. I think you should know, if at P1 this is 0, what's QD? How much is QD? The dominant firm's demand is the market demand. So therefore, when the price is P1, the dominant firm's demand is this. The whole market demand. Understand? At P1, the whole market demand is this. It all becomes the dominant firm's demand because QF is equal to 0. Okay, is this clear now? I need 2 points to draw a demand curve. One here, right? So I have 2 points. Now I can derive either the dominant firm's demand. So therefore the dominant firm's demand curve is this. Dry them out here. I got the first half of the curve. Okay, any questions? Now, of course, the subject guide, if you read the subject guide, she draws slightly different from me. She draws this as a curve. Yeah, it's okay. Whether you draw as a straight line or as a curve, it's still downward sloping, right? The law of demand, so it doesn't matter. Understand? The demand curve need not be linear, dominant firm's demand, but it need not be a curve as well, so both are correct. Understand? Okay, next. When the price goes below P1, when the price goes below P1, those fringe firms supply how much? Now you can see their supply needs start coming in when the price is below P1. So when the price goes below P1, the supply by the fringe firm is what? 0. Which means when the price goes below P1, this entire market demand is supplied by who? The dominant firms. You agree? Also when the price goes below P1, the supply by the fringe firm is 0. So therefore, when price is below P1, the entire market demand is the, whose one? Dominant firms. So which means the dominant firm's demand becomes this. Okay, anyway, just for one further illustration, how I get the dominant firm's demand. Actually, 2 points will do. Right. You join up these 2 red points. Okay, but if you still don't understand, I'll show you one more. Suppose the price is here. How much is the dominant firm's demand? So if you don't understand, I'll show you one more point, which is redundant. Right, because all you need is 2 points to get a demand function. This and this. Okay? Okay, so I just show you for understanding purposes. Now, at this price, the total market demand is how much? Go to the market demand. This amount. Okay? I assign one number just to help you to understand. Let's say 50. But the supply by the fringe firm is how much? You go to the supply curve of the fringe firm, the total quantity supply QF is this. Okay? So the price is P. So can anyone tell me what's the dominant firm's demand? The total supply at this price, total market demand is this. Fringe firm supply 10. So the dominant firm's demand is 40. So at PD, you measure out to 40. Okay? You get another point. At PD, the dominant firm's demand therefore is 40. Okay? Understand? So we have 3 points. At P0, the dominant firm's demand is 0. At PD is 40. At P1 is all here. So you join them 3 points together. Now, actually, do you need 3 points or not? Does it run out? Then why do I do this third point? Redundant. Alright, so it's just to illustrate to you the concept. If the total is 50, the supply by the fringe firm is 10. Obviously, And PD, this must be 40. Understand? This is where we will understand that is a residual demand. Now, I showed you before, if the price go below P1, the supply by the finished product is 0. So this entire market becomes the demand of the dominant firms. Because when the price go below P1, finished product is not supplying anymore. So all the market demand fall on the dominant firms. Right? So you can see it now. The whole market demand here is the dominant firms. The dominant. So therefore the dominant firms demand curve is very hard. Because when it's below P1, the entire market demand is the dominant firms. Right? So DD is equal to D. Okay? Okay, any question? Now once you have done this, then we can safely say that
Anh thấy là mình
wherever the dominant firm produce, to maximize profit, they always produce anywhere. MI per MC. So let's draw the MR curve. Now the marginal Y is always the same as the demand curve. So when the demand curve is this red portion, and the demand curve is this, the MR curve is this, twice as steep. Okay? From 0 to this amount. But later on, when the demand is this, the MR twice as steep is this. Okay? Becomes steeper. You all understand? You cannot understand CA for one. See, when your demand curve is this, and one is this, 2 times steeper. And this one you all understand? The first part. Right, that's twice as steep. Now the second part. When the demand now becomes this part, and y is twice as steep is here. Now the reason why is because you see here. The second part is this. How about the MI is this blue line? Because it's twice as steep. So I want to let you know twice as steep don't start here. Twice as steep don't start here. And the demand is this. Why? Because in mathematics, twice as steep refers to where? This line, if you extend backward, alright? So you extend backward, the full line is this. Okay? That means this red color line, if you extend backward, the full curve is this.
Anh đã vượt.
The full line is this. You agree? So for the whole curve, the MR curve is twice as steep. It's always based on here. Twice as steep. That's it. So for the full curve, that's why you see. That's the mathematics, alright. Twice as steep means full line is this price is steel. And so when your demand is from here to here, the MR is from here to here. But here we are now looking at this part of demand. From this output onwards, the demand is here, price of steel should be this way, not originates from here. Okay, you understand? It should not originate from this part. Because the full demand curve we extend backward is this, price of steel is this one. And so from 0 to here, the demand is this, the MR is here. But from here onwards, from this output onwards, the demand is this, the price of steel should be this. Clear now? Okay, so we have the thing solved now. So I need MR so that I can now see how much the dominant firm will produce. Now he will always set MR to MC. Okay? So this MC curve is the dominant firm's demand curve. Now if you set MR to MC, MRD is the dominant firm's demand curve, you set it to MCD. And so therefore, the optimal point is here. Okay? So if you produce, this is a point where it's maximizing profit. And so what price can you sell? You will then produce, the dominant firm will produce this quantity QD, Q dominant. What price can you sell? To find price, you go to which demand curve? The market demand curve or the red color dominant firm's demand. How do you find the price? So the dominant firms you see. You go to black or the market. Which one? The dominant firm's demand. Because this is how much his customer is willing to pay. Right, the demand curve shows how much your customers are willing to pay, right? If it's the dominant firm's demand is red color. If you produce this quantity, his customer is willing to pay how much? I'll go to his demand curve PD. So the market equilibrium will be this amount. The dominant firm will produce this amount and set this price. So you see, price is the mechanism. So the dominant firms will set the price PD to maximize its profit. Once you set the price PD, all the fringe firms will have to follow. Okay? All the followers. So all the followers will have to accept the price PD. And so if the price is PD, the followers will supply how much? QF. Understand? Because the PD, the total market demand is Q. The fringe firm all supply QF. The residual, Q minus QF, is all supplied by the dominant firm. Okay, can you understand? So one thing I want you to know, mathematics. If I ask you to find for me the dominant firm's demand, what do you need? To find the equilibrium in the dominant firm's model, find for me the equilibrium price and quantity how to find. First thing, in mathematics, you derive the dominant firm's demand, the red color line, mathematics. Once you get this dominant firm's demand, then we derive this MR. Once you found this MR, you set equal to this MC. That will give you the output and the price. Simple? Okay, if you don't understand, look at this example. This is a dominant firm. So you let all the other firms sell the quantity they want to sell. You let all the other firms sell the quantity they want to supply at the existing price. So the dominant firm set the price. The other firm act as what? Perfect competitive firm, fringe firm, small fringe firm. British still set the price they have to follow. Now the demand for steel, the demand function, given as this. Okay? So P is equal to this. Now the total quantity supplied by the finished firm is this. QF is this. So we are given British Steel, the dominant firm marginal cost is this. How much will British Steel produce? And what's the price? How to find? How much does the dominant firm produce? And what's the market price?
Thì ra dân nó
Okay, first thing. Now, you have to find how much the dominant firm produce. First, I said before,
phải đi lắm đâu.
we need to find the dominant firm's demand curve in mathematics. Then we can find his MR. Okay? So find his demand curve in math. QD is equal to Q minus QF. Alright? Let's see. Okay, first, in order to find QD, I need to find Q. Now, can anyone tell me what's Q equal to? Is it given? Yeah. P is this, right? So what's the market demand? Rearrange the market demand, therefore the quantity demanded by the market is this. Okay, is this simple? So we have found Q. Any question? Is this clear? So I found Q. Now I need
Vậy
QF. Do I need to find QF? Is it given QF?
anh vừa
Yes,
đổ
it's
đi
given to find.
đó đó, rồi nghĩ đó.
QF is given as
Anh
here.
nghĩ gì?
Okay, so that's for QF. Okay. So the dominant firm's demand, therefore becomes this. Easy enough. Q minus QF. So demand is, that means in mathematics you have to write as P versus some function of C. And the MR is based on these two times. You don't follow now. So since this is a straight line, I know because this one is to the power of 1, right? Therefore, MR is 2 times this. 2 times this is how much? Okay, so I found the dominant firm's MR. Okay? So I can now find out how much they produce. Any question? I won't tell you you cannot find an MR from here. Some people tell me, okay, I put here 560. You do here. You are wrong. Wrong. You got to rearrange first. Understand? And wrong.
Hồi nãy là ai nói chỗ
You
này
cannot find an MR.
chỗ
this
này
way.
hả?
You got to rearrange to P and Q first. Clear now? I don't want you to tell me, oh, this is a demand. MR is 2 times equal. Yeah. Very wrong. 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 You got to rearrange to this first. Then MR from here, 560. Any question? So once we have MRD on the dominant firm, you can now set to MCD. Now the marginal cost for the dominant firm is given as here. Alright? So setting them equal, we have one equation, one unknown. You solve for Q, Q is 2. Okay, done. Easy enough. Now, once you found that the dominant firm produced this amount, right? How do you find the market price? There are two demand curves here. So you substitute this into which demand curve? Which one? Market demand or the dominant firm's demand? This one is the dominant firm's demand. Okay? This demand curve is the dominant firm's demand curve. Dominant firm's demand, dominant firm's demand, dominant firm's demand. So put Q equal to inside here, the dominant firm's demand curve. Okay? So this is your dominant firm's demand curve. Put your QD equal to here. And therefore the market price is 596. So the dominant firm's equilibrium is the dominant firm will produce 2 units and you will sell at this price. Now this price, how much will the fringe firm supply? Given that QF is this, right? 49P. So 49 times 5.96, you get this. And so the total output is dominant firm supply 2, fringe firm supply 292, so sum up is this. Simple. Okay, any question? Now you differ. So the market demand, okay, market demand is this. The fringe firm cost function is this. The dominant firm's marginal cost is this. Find the equivalent quantity and the price. Okay, so just the same as before. So to find the dominant firm's quantity, we need to find MRD. Alright. So the fastest way is to look at the answer. And you find we have a small problem. Where's the problem? We cannot find it. See, the dominant firm's demand. Okay, you all listen to me for a while. In the previous problem, the dominant firm's demand is very simple. Because the dominant firm's demand is equal to what? The market demand minus the total supply by all the fringe firms. Now previously we have this. Previously, the total supply by the fringe firm is given. Do you agree? In this problem, is it given? What's the total supply by the fringe firm? It wasn't given. Now, if it wasn't given, then how are you going to find the dominant firm's demand? You understand what I'm saying? Because to find the marginal revenue of the dominant firm set to MC, right? Set MR to MC. First, you need to find the dominant firm's demand first. This one. Like this question, we don't have to do that. So how to find the total supply by the fringe firm? Not to worry, because these are perfect competitive firm. So can we find the supply curve? How? How do we find the supply curve of perfect competitive firm? Yeah, this one. So it's not an issue because we have the cost function here. So therefore MC is DC only Q. This is the supply by each firm. Okay? This is the supply by each firm. Remember the marginal cost curve is the supply curve. So this is the supply curve. Okay, so we have a very small problem. Like before, the supply curve is always postulated in terms of Q versus what? P. It is not. This is postulated as, well, we know that the marginal cost curve is the supply curve. So therefore the supply curve is the MC. But supply curve is normally postulated as P versus quantity, right? Not to worry. Perfect competition. Remember last time I showed you the market structure. Perfect competition. All firms will produce until P equal. They always produce at P equal MC if ever they produce. So if ever they produce, they always produce at P equal MC. So therefore, we can write this as well. Since they're equal, we can write this. So that's the supply. You see? So what's the quantity supplied by each firm? How many firms are there? There are 5 firms. So what's the total quantity supplied by 5 firms? 5 times this. Well, if you take 5 times this, you are actually 5 times the price. You understand? Find the quantity supplied by each firm. So each firm supply this amount. 5 firms, 5 times this. Understand? Easy. Okay, we have found the supply. 5 times this. Each firm supply this, right? Since they are identical firm. Okay, any question? Finish. Five firms times the supply by each firm. Each firm supply this. 5 firms supply 5 times this. Okay, problem solved already. Okay? So now I can get the nominal firm's demand, which is the market demand. As you can see, the market demand is this. So that's the market demand. Minus what? The supply by the finished firm. So that's the nominal firm's demand. Is this clear? You need this because then we can find MRD. Follow? So how to find MRD? Rearrange for P first in terms of P versus Q. So if you rearrange for P, so this is the dominant firm's demand. Rearrange, so P versus Q is it. So from here, I can find MRD. Now the dominant firm's demand curve is, the marginal revenue is the same line, except the gradient here is how much? How much is it? 2 times the 2 times that. So you take 2 times that, you get this. Clear? So I have the MR. Now I just have to set equal to the marginal cost of the dominant firm. What's the marginal cost for the dominant firm? Is it given? Yes. That. Alright. So problem solved. Set to the marginal cost. So we have this, and problem solved from here very simple. Okay. So we have one equation, one unknown, solved for QD. So the nominal firm produce this amount. Now if you produce this amount, what price can you sell for? Put this QD inside here. To its nominal firm's demand curve. Right? And so therefore the price is this. And so supply by finished firm, Q equals 2.5P, right? 2.5 times the price. That's it. Okay, so the difficult part is over. Just have to define the total supply by the finished firm. Okay, is this great?
this problem is slightly harder because QF was not given. In the past it was given, right? The equation 49P. Now not given, we have to create ourselves. Okay, so if no problem, then so country 1, country 2. Okay, this question is about subsidy. So we bring in subsidy. I think we'll do it after the break. So before you go for your break, I think there are two errors here. Look at this state here. This sign should be this. There's a typo error here. This should be this. Change this. Alright, so there's a typo error here. If you look at 5 different country 1, country
còn miếng giật miếng cái gì miếng nước.
Confirm there's an error here. Can you amend this to this side? This side. Okay, first thing. Country 1, country 2, they are swapped. The same goes to the rest of the world. So they face a demand curve like this. Right. Now, the firms have the production cost is 0. So now suddenly we introduce the unit subsidy. Now country 1 offer a unit subsidy of S to the firm, but country 2 did not offer a unit subsidy. Okay, now if country 1 offer a unit subsidy of S, how to find the Cournot equivalent output level and price? Now first, let's look at which firm first. Cournot. Cournot doesn't matter which firm.
Chua quá. Chua gì? Chua ăn hả?
It doesn't matter, right?
Chua. Chua lắm á.
How come?
Đậm đi nè.
Because they are all the same. So you can begin by starting with firm 1, or you can start with firm 2. It's up to you. Okay, so anyone will do.
Ê, cái này nó...
Now, so I will start with firm 2. Now, profit is equal to price minus average cost times quantity. Now, but with this one, I think you can see, before I go further, you have told all the firms the cost is how much?
Cái này...
0. Now, if all the firms the cost is 0, therefore I think profit becomes total revenue, right? Can you all see what? So the profit becomes total revenue in this case because your profit is equal to price times quantity. Now, as you can see, P is this 36 minus this one times Q2 for firm 2. So I start by doing firm 2 first. So therefore, this is the total revenue minus total cost. Now, you can see I did not minus total cost because in this question the cost is how much? 0. Understand? The test, I think I give you the date. Yeah, give you the date. I give you the date. So it's chapter 8, 9, 10, efficiency ratio, market structure, and this chapter. So this chapter much easier, that's why I think you can have it. Okay, so total revenue minus total cost. So the cost is 0. How much the firm to produce the D high or D2? So you get
Nguyên một miếng
this
bự
is set
luôn,
to
không
0,
có
so
đâu.
firm to optimally to maximize profit to produce this one. So now, if I want to solve this equation,
Chị nghe mùi là đã thấy chua.
first, how many equations do I need to solve to unknown? How many equations do you need to solve to unknown? Normally 2, right? But do I need that? You need 1. Because this is Cournot. Cournot means is Cournot a symmetric model? Yes. And most importantly, so we can Can we apply symmetry? Are the costs the same or not? The costs are the same, right? So can we apply symmetry? Q1 equal to Q2? Cannot. In this case, cannot. Why? Normally, yes. But now this one cannot. Because there's a small thing. Are the costs really the same? No. The costs are not the same. Can you see why? We are told that now country 1 offer a unit subsidy of S to the firm. Can the cost be the same? By right should be the same. You see, here is different now. Because for this firm now, the cost is in 0. By right, the cost is 0, and so average cost is 0, right? So you'll be wondering how come suddenly plus S. So when I walk through this, I find the solution, why like that? Very strange, right? You will pay this subsidy, how come is this? The profit is this. Well, how come suddenly plus S? So I found that the way she found the profit is she, for firm 1, okay, this one I think we can.
Nó còn nguyên giá mà bà.
At first the average costs are the same, but it doesn't seem like that way. If cost equals 0, then average cost for both firms is the same. By right. But not true. Not true. The average cost of firm 2 is 0, but firm 1 is how much? Is 0. But now they are given a subsidy. You agree or not? So the subsidy, the cost is lower by how much? Every unit, the cost is lower by S. So we see the costs are not the same. Country 2, the average cost is 0, but country 1, the average cost is how much? Minus S. Okay, cannot apply symmetry. You understand or not? Okay, cannot apply symmetry, then why this is not P minus S? How come P plus S? The profit for country 2, okay, see here for 1. Pi 2 is equal to price minus average cost. What's the average cost for, sorry. Country 1. Pi 1 is equal to price minus average cost. What's the average cost for country 1 now? Is it 0? No. It's how much? Minus S. Now you minus S become what? Price minus average cost times quantity, right? Minus average cost, but the average cost is equal to minus S. You understand? Huh? So this one, the cost is not 0 anymore. For country 2, yes, this is a price minus average cost, right? But this one is not. The average cost is not 0. The average cost is equal to minus S. So when you minus S, you become what? P minus S become what? Okay, so therefore the sum is, the solution to give is a bit wrong. Okay, now I just amend this to plus confirm. It should be plus sign. Okay? Do you understand why plus sign, right? Profit is price minus average cost times quantity. But your average cost is equal to minus S. So P minus average cost is minus S, right? Minus become what? Plus S. That's why you can see it's P plus S times Q1. Okay, any question? Okay, so you change all the sign to plus. So, for firm 1, okay, who cannot follow? You understand, and now we can move on. Now I hope you can understand why we cannot apply symmetry now, right? Although it's not, it's symmetric line, but the cost
Đầu cho
is not the same. Okay? In other words, if you look at equation wise, it's not the same. Not the same. For country 1, for country 2, the profit is price minus average
country one is price minus average cost, which is minus S. You see, are these two equations identical? Really not identical, right? You understand or not? The equations are not identical. Can their quantity be the same? Impossible. Cannot apply symmetry. So I think you have to be careful. Once we talk about subsidy, unit tax, merger, acquisition, all this you cannot apply symmetry. You understand or not? The equation is not going to be identical. Therefore, the quantity cannot be identical. Clear? d pi over dq2, d pi over dq1, then q cannot be the same. Is it not? Okay, that's the case then. Very simple. Now we can move on to here. So for firm one, is this the profit? Now since P is given as this amount, so put in your P, this your P. And so how much should firm one produce? So in d pi over dq1, you have this side to 0, so q1 is this. So now you see, to solve two unknown, we need two equations now. You agree or not? We cannot use symmetry by conveniently assuming that these two are the same. So we have no problem now, we have equation 1, equation 2. Can we solve for the two unknown? Of course, yes. Right. So you can solve simultaneously equation 1 and 2, or by direct substitution. So I solve for you, you get this. So problem solved. Any question? So we have found the optimal Q1 and Q2. And so, you have found the Carnot equilibrium output ready. And to find the price, you substitute into the demand curve. Now clearly you can see you have Q1 and Q2 as this, right? You put them inside the demand curve, which is what I do. You get the market price. And finally, the question asks, how do the output varies with the subsidy? Now to find out how the output varies with the subsidy is very simple. You can see for yourself. For firm 1, when S is bigger, Q1 is bigger or smaller? Bigger. So they are positively related. Second, for Q2, when S is bigger, will Q2 be bigger or smaller? Smaller because the sign in front is minus, right? So you minus a bigger S, your Q2 is smaller. So that's how they are related. So firm 1 benefits from the subsidy. They will produce more. Firm 2 produce less with the subsidy, given in firm 1. Okay, any question? Okay, so I think we are done with all these things. I think this chapter we are done. So we can move on to monopoly. There are two more questions. There are two more problems here. Okay, this question is about what? Merger. Now, when merger takes place, okay, so this question is about merger. Now, once merger takes place, what will happen? This problem we have three terms. Okay, so this is a Carnot industry. Three terms. Every term have a constant marginal cost T, demand function given by this. Okay, this one we deal with subsidy, now we deal with merger. Two terms merged together, and they achieve a cost savings of S. Okay,
không chua
so
mặn nè.
I think the reason why it pays the most
Nhiều quá
is
nè.
right. You enjoy the cost saving.
Làm chỉ nghe mùi thôi là cái da gà hơn.
In fact, I think
Thế là
from
bỏ vô
your
vị phải
economies of scale, if two firms merge together, what's the rationale for merging?
tuần sau có đi học không? Chưa hai,
For some industry, there tremendous economies of scale,
thứ hai xong thứ ba là
big quantity.
em gửi đợt này thứ ba thứ tư.
If you don't merge, if the firms are small,
Gì đó
someone produce here,
em gửi cho cái lệnh của nó tá cái gì. Em chưa coi.
right? Like firm 1 and firm 2 merge together,
Tắt ngày thứ hai mất ai
they
rồi
can
đó.
produce only how much?
Mình tắt trước cho bạn nghe.
Yeah. So the average cost is lower. So that's
Quá
a merging.
còn hai bên.
You enjoy the cost saving
Đúng vậy.
of everything,
Số
because when you
người
merge
cặp
together, the
thứ
two
hai
firms are
thôi
big
cái buồn
enough, right?
hơn.
If they're big enough, they can produce until this
Cái gì
quantity.
cũng tính ra làm
And
sao
so the
cho
average
tay
cost is
còn
much
cơ
lower.
hứa
So they
còn
enjoy
thứ
the
sáu
cost saving.
phải hai năm.
Understand? So one of the
Còn thứ
rationale
hai
for
hai năm
merging
đúng.
is this.
Thứ sáu làm chơi thứ hai làm chơi.
Okay, any questions? On Hui Xin. Gunawan. Okay, anyway, your son to you, your honey to you. Okay, so first, we are told now if these two firms merge together, you enjoy a cost savings of S dollar per unit. Right? In this case, it's like $3. How to find the common equilibrium? Okay, so in order to find the common equilibrium, first, let's do the setup. N equals 3. So, two firms merge.
Rồi và
Suppose
có đứa về gì giờ này về rồi lên xong
firm 2 and 3 merge.
Xin nói lên chứ chị mà dừng sáu biết về làm gì không lau nhà em có
Suppose
chị cũng có
firm 2 and 3
nhưng mà cũng
merge.
lẽ muốn cả ngồi làm thêm nữa mà
And
không
merge
phải
together for
nhìn vui đó chị
so that
mình
firm
thấy có nỗi buồn thì có
3 merge with 2 become a big firm, big firm 2. You understand? So that's why big firm 2. These two merge together become
nhà
firm.
bên nọ em chờ em về
Is it? So that means in this
Cầm vào
industry now how many firms? There are two, right? Firm 1 and
xíu
big
rồi
firm 2. Understand? So for firm 1, so I start at firm 1. This one never merge. Now, firm 1 wish to maximize profit. What's the profit equal to? Price equals, what's P equal to? Okay, if you rearrange the demand curve, P is how much? 100 minus Q, so that means P is okay. Now, we will not quite, how come there's no Q3? By the way, there are 3 firms, where's Q3? Huh? Merge already. Q3 merge with Q2, right? Firm 2, you understand now? So how many Q are there now? Q1, which is not merged, and Q2. Did you all follow? If they did not merge, you should 100 minus Q1 minus Q2, what else? Minus Q3. But firm 3 and firm 2 merge together to form one firm, not firm 2, so therefore only 2. You understand? So that's it. So the profit of firm 1 will be price minus average cost, which is 100 minus Q1 minus Q2.
Còn này
So
ở
that's
trên
our price.
lấy tiền
Wait, what's the, is the cost 0? No, every firm the marginal cost is how much? C. But I want AC. What's the average cost? Profit is price minus average cost times 1 80, right? What's the average cost? Constant marginal cost means constant average cost, right? So the average cost is C. So this is the price minus the average cost. So minus C. So price minus average cost times 180. So that's the profit of firm 1. Simple. Okay, any question? So how much should firm 1 produce? How much should firm 1 produce? So you did pi 1 over dq1. To find the optimal output for firm 1. Okay? So in other words, we can now find the optimum Q1, right, the column variable quantity. So if you d pi over dq1, what do you get? So set equal to 0 to maximize profit. So therefore, what's Q1 equal to? Okay, so let's call this equation 1. So that's how much firm 1 should produce. Simple. Now, I will now look at the profit function of firm 2. So what's the profit function of firm 2? The merged firm. Now, the merged firm, you take price minus average cost. So for them, the price is minus the average cost. For firm 2, the average cost is how much? Also C. Okay, so price minus average cost is your profit per unit. Wait, no, wait. For firm 2, they also enjoy a cost savings of how much? S1. For firm 2, now the average cost because they merge. The average cost fall by how much? Each unit here fall by S. Fall by S. So we have to minus C. And then how much? Minus S. Or plus S. Minus or plus? You are supposed to minus the average cost. You can see clearly price minus average cost. But what's the average cost? The average cost at first is equal to C, but now fall by how much? By S. You agree? Not fall by S. So therefore, you have to take price minus C plus S, not minus S. Do you understand now? Have to plus S. You follow now? Because the average cost is equal to C, but they enjoy a cost saving, right? So the average cost is now J over right? C minus S. Okay? So for firm 2, the average cost is C minus S. So when you take P minus AC, you are taking P minus C minus S become plus S. You follow? The average cost is lower by S, right? So when you take P minus AC, you actually take P minus C, P minus C minus S become P minus C plus S.
cannot see this.
C minus C.
Sorry. So you cannot go and minus x plus x. Easy. So P minus C plus S. So this will be your profit per unit times Q2 for firm 2. Easy. So how much will firm 2 produce? How much will firm 2 produce? Find the optimal Q2. So set to 0. And so firm 2 should produce how much? So that's the optimal Q2. Simple. So firm 2, correct, should produce this amount. Now, I think how many equations, this is a Carnot firm, can be a price symmetry. Can be a price symmetry. Cannot. Cannot write. Why? In fact, from here, you cannot apply symmetry. You know why? Is Q1 equal to Q2? Alright. Although it's Carnot. So although it's Carnot, but you must not forget, Carnot is symmetric. But are the costs the same? Alright, this one, for you the average cost is this. This one, the average cost is lower, right? Costs are not the same, so the equations are not identical. Clear? In fact, if you look at the profit function, they are not identical because here got one more is linear. So you cannot apply symmetry. As such, if you want to find the solution, what must we do? To solve two unknown, we need two equations. Okay, so we can solve this. We have to solve equation 1 and 2 simultaneously. So, or by direct substitution. So if I set them equal, okay, if I rearrange and set them equal, so what's Q1 equal to? Let's call this equation 2. Okay.
Tờ giấy không?
Which means, I think I can solve it using common sense. Now, Q1 is this and Q1 is this, right? So we accept equation 1 to equation 2. Since Q1 is equal to this value, and since Q1 is also equal to this value, right? That means you can say this must be equal to what? This. So equation 1 to equation 2. one equation, 100. So you can solve for Q2 now. Okay, so that's all. Okay. Which means what's Q2? Okay, so problem solved. So your Q2 is good. Right, so you solve that simultaneously. This is your Q2. Okay. You see, this one is 3 over 2, right? 3 over 2, right? 3 over 3 Q2. Your 3 you bring down here. Then you multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of the 2. Okay? See, this is 3 over 2, right? How you get rid of the 3? How you get rid of the 2? You get rid of the 2, you multiply throughout by 2, right? So this becomes times 2. Then your 3 you bring down. Okay, okay, now if it's not clear, then you slowly one step, because I don't have time. Okay? I don't have time, so I just get a part. You know, you just rearrange yourself. You'll get the same answer. Okay, so we found Q2, how to find Q1? What's Q1? To find Q1, then you just put it into any of the equations. So you can put it into equation 1, or you can put it into equation 2. Okay? So you put Q2 into equation 2, it's okay. So put it into equation 1. Which one is easier? So therefore Q2 equation 1, so therefore Q1 will be equal to. So Q2 is this. Okay, how to get rid of this 3? How to get rid of this 3? I think multiply by 3 throughout. Multiply by 3 throughout to get rid of this 3. So that's a Q1. Okay, so problem solved. So we found Q2, So in this case, firm 2 will produce this. Firm 1 will produce this. Question. So that's the optimal quantity. Okay, can I say? We cannot do symmetry because of the cost differences. Last week I knew this one. You have the price symmetry, you have to further check whether the equation is identical, right? The costs are different. Okay. If you cannot follow me, you just go back and do it again. You should get 10 or 7. Do one more. Completely assignment do as well. So let's look at question number 7 now. Hold on. So the color equilibrium quantity is found. Let's look at the question. Question number 7.
Móc mà, móc thôi.
Color equilibrium quantity is the price value of each. Okay. Interesting. Equilibrium quantity and price. How many firms are there globally? 2 firms. So what's the big Q equal to? How much? 2 firms. Alright, so this is your demand ruler. Constant marginal cost 30. So what's the average cost for both firms? Constant marginal cost 30. So what's the average cost for both firms? How much? 30. Okay. So constant marginal cost, 0 fixed cost. You all know how I get 30 right, average cost. Constant MC is 0 fixed cost means constant average cost, right? So how to find the comma? This one very simple. How to find the comma equilibrium quantity? So you're going to use switch firm of view, so the profit of firm 1 is equal to price minus average cost. Average cost is 30. Now it's 2.5, so therefore firm 1 should produce how much?
Gì vậy?
Okay, so that's the optimal way forward. Okay. So you solve for Q1 and get this. So that's equation 1. Okay, so we can solve for A. So now let's do B. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. How to find the conduct equilibrium? First, can we apply symmetry? Can, because the costs are all the same, right? Okay, so by symmetry, Q1 equal Q2. Therefore, we can write this as Q1. Okay, so we found Q1, we found Q2, right? We found 1, we found 1. Understand? So that's the comma equilibrium quantity. And how much is the profit of each firm? So profit, what's pi 1? See, this is a profit, right? Understand? What's Q1? Q1 30, Q2 30. Minus average cost 30 times Q1, which is 30. So 120 minus 30, 900. Okay. So this profit of firm 1, and also therefore we found 1, we found 1. The profit of firm 2 is 1. Okay, any question? Okay, so we have to solve part A. Now, how to do part A? Part B, suppose the two firms want to maximize profit. You have to maximize sales. Now, if these two firms wish to maximize sales, revenue, how will your answer change? Both firms want to maximize revenue. How will your answer change? So part B. Let's say firm 2. Maximize revenue means what? Revenue is price times how much? Quantity. Agree? So what's price equal to? Times quantity. So if you are firm 2, you have to maximize revenue, right? So how much will it produce? So firm 2 wants to maximize revenue. In other words, can you find for me the quantity there? If the objective of the firm is to maximize revenue, so it's just price times quantity, right? So how to find the quantity to maximize revenue? You need dr over
Q.
So that will give you the optimal quantity. So set equal to 0. Okay, I think can we apply symmetry? Q unknown. Can I apply symmetry? Can or not? Q unknown. Is it possible to apply symmetry? Yes. How do you know? Look at the equation. Are they identical? For firm 2 is like that. For firm 1, P times Q1. Exactly same equation, right? The P are the same. The only the difference is the name A. Firm 1, firm 2. Exactly the same equation, right? If you take away the name, it says P times Q. For both firms. Agree or not? Okay, so if this is identical, their Q must be identical, so we can apply symmetry. So by symmetry, Q1 equal Q2, so I can write this as three found one, you found all. Simple. Each one produce 40. And so what's the profit of firm 2? So profit is price minus average cost. Price is this. Average cost is how much? For firm 2 is 30. Times quantity Q2. Okay, no. Okay, now right. If both firms wish to maximize revenue, both firms produce how much? That's how we found. 40. Both firms produce 40. So therefore the profit is 400. So you found for firm 1, you found for firm 2, you also found for firm 1. You understand? Found for both. Clear now? You found one. Because you see the symmetry applies to both case, right? Because of quantity is the same. Okay, so we have found the case. You have right, right? Because the quantity are the same, so the profit should be the same. Same revenue, they have the same cost. Because when both are maximizing revenue, both produce 40, right?
Yến ơi, cho mượn đồ bắn đi Yến.
Okay, so that's why you found one, so you can price it. Okay, any questions?
Ba, cái gì vậy?
Now, assuming your answer will need be different, they ask you what? If they say both firms did not maximize revenue, the answer will be different. You cannot apply symmetry. They say if firm 1 wants to maximize profit, firm 2 wants to maximize revenue. Then what's the corner equivalent? So you have to be careful. If the question says firm 1 wants to maximize profit, firm 2 wants to maximize revenue,
Trời, đồ bánh em vui.
then what's the next equivalent? Okay, that means I ask you an extra question. It's not right. It's suppose firm 1 maximize profit and firm 2 maximize revenue. Find for me the next equilibrium. If that's the case. How to find? If firm 1 maximize profit, firm 2 maximize revenue, what would be the next equilibrium? Okay, can we use symmetry to solve this? No, right? They are no longer identical. Alright, one is a profit function, the other one is a revenue function, right? Will the quantity be the same? Impossible. Okay, then how we find the next equilibrium? Simple. It's found where this we need two equations in that case. Equation 1. Firm 1 maximize profit, so we will produce here. We maximize profit, right? Firm 2 maximize revenue. In which case, I need one more equation. To maximize revenue, how much will firm 2 produce? Anybody? How much is Q2?
Hôm nay đi học chưa, nó có về Việt Nam không? Không về. Hả? Không về. Cứ nói đó thể hiện được không?
Let's call this equation.
Thật
là ngày thứ hai thôi.
This one not
Thứ
enough.
hai là sao?
Because if this one want to maximize revenue from you, you have to use this one. You rearrange this
Thì có nói
equation.
là người mất
So therefore, Q2 will be equal to 16 minus 1Q1, right? Firma wants to maximize profit, so its equation will be this. Equation 1. So the net equilibrium is found where both firms are maximizing what? Their thing. Run off.
cái gì gặp nó mà
So that
phải
means,
chuyển
remember last time I showed you on the graph where
thì
the
hỏi
two
nó đi.
equation intersect, there will be the net equilibrium. When this guy maximizes revenue, that guy maximizes profit, right? That means you have to solve simultaneously. Okay? Or Q1 and Q2. You can use direct substitution. Okay, I think you can solve them simultaneously. If you solve
Chia ra được.
from equation 2, Q2 is this. So from equation 1, Q1 is this. Okay, so let's call this equation 3. Okay. Understand? So let's call this equation 3. So I solve by direct substitution. Set equation 2 to 3. Equation 2 is this. Equation 3 is this. So how much is Q1 equal to? So 1.5 Q1. Is equal to 30. Okay, so once you found Q1 already, it's very simple. And how to find Q2? You put Q1 to where? Anywhere. Down to equation S of Q1. Equation 1. No, I want to find Q2, sorry. I found Q1 equation. Which one is the easiest? Okay, equation 3. Still the equation 3 is the easiest. So therefore Q2 is equal to